Cormac, do we know now for certain what happened here? Was it indeed a Ukrainian anti-missile defence system that was at play here?
Jane, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me on. Look, I don't think we do know exactly what has happened yet. Both the Poles and NATO and the Americans and others are tending towards the fact that it appears to have been a Ukrainian missile that went astray when it was fired to shoot down one of these rockets. It's interesting that today, Oleksiy Danilov, who is the chairman of Ukraine's Security and Defense Board, has requested that Ukraine take part in the full and further investigations to ascertain exactly where it came from. The important point is it doesn't really matter where this missile came from. The fault lies squarely with Russia. If Russia had not invaded Ukraine, and indeed yesterday was probably the most murderous rocket attack with almost 100 cruise missiles and similar rockets fired at Ukraine, then this would not be happening.
And it seems to many of us quite extraordinary that yesterday's action from Russia was so hideous and so violent when Sergei Lavrov is sitting there surrounded by other members of the G20 in Bali.
And yes, absolutely. And at exactly the time that President Zelensky outlined a 10-point proposition of a peace plan. So I think it tells us all we need to know about the intent and the faith of the Russian Federation and the Kremlin administration in particular.
Has Putin been seen around lately? I confess I don't think I've seen or heard from him for a couple of days.
I don't believe he has. And, you know, he was famously absent last week when Shoigu, the Minister for Defense, and Surovkin, this new butcher who has been put in charge of the war in Ukraine, had this very staged conversation about the withdrawal from Kharkiv. It has said that Putin does not like being anywhere close to failure. He must be coming under pressure from his own people at home because the war is going disastrously. So, to my knowledge, no, he hasn't been seen. And in fact, we're never too sure where he is. I think we assume probably skulking in a bunker in the Urals somewhere.
Right. So, what do you think is likely to happen in the next couple of days? I mean, it doesn't look as though the Russian aggression is going to stop anytime soon.
Well, no, it doesn't. And it's interesting, following the great Ukrainian victory to retake Kherson, that we've been hearing rumors for the last 24 to 48 hours that the Ukrainians may even have crossed the Dnipro in that area and are pressing home the attack against the estimated 30,000 Russian troops who left Kherson with their tails between their legs. The Ukrainians obviously won't tell us for very good reason what is going on, but I think it's clear that Russia is losing very badly on the battlefield at the moment. The Ukrainians estimate that Russia has lost in excess of 82,000 killed, and that's not taking into account the casualties. So this is something that is going to be quite very hard for them to sustain, but they always react by with anger by turning their ire on civilian targets and also the infrastructure targets to try and to make winter as miserable and unlivable for the Ukrainian people as they possibly can, against all the rules of war, of course.